Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Managing Research Programs at Cancer Centers. We're delighted to have panelists from Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center and the University of Virginia Comprehensive Cancer Center. Now let's meet our panelists. First, Judith Epstein, Director of Grant and Foundation Development. Judith has been with Roswell Park since 2004. Previously, she was with the Delaware Division of Public Health, where she was director of the HIV prevention program and oversaw all HIV prevention activities for the state. Now, Ms. Epstein manages the compilation of Roswell Park's Cancer Center support grant competitive and non-competitive applications and navigates distribution of pilot funds across the Cancer Center. She also serves as the Director of Grant and Foundation Development for the Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, which is the development arm of Roswell Park, where she is a liaison with private foundations, overseeing a team of grant coordinators who help faculty develop and submit competitive applications. Next, we have Rebecca Latimer, PhD, Research Program Director at the University of Virginia Comprehensive Cancer Center. Becca is a scientifically trained research development professional at UVA, and as a research program director, she works closely with the leadership of the Cancer Center, as well as faculty members and staff to work toward the mission of the center, to reduce the burden of cancer for patients throughout Virginia. Becca's role involves all things CCSG, which includes overseeing and managing the membership process, managing data, which includes publications, grants, ROI, and the like, and working with leadership to develop content for meetings, retreats, and RPPRs. Prior to working in the Cancer Center, Becca worked for over 5 years in the UVA Office for the Vice President of Research on the Research Development Team as the Director for Proposal Development. She worked closely with faculty on large, multi-PI, complex proposals, developing and implementing workshops for trainees and faculty, and providing resources for researchers across the university. Her research training was focused on developmental biology, along with molecular and cellular biology and genetics in various model organisms. She has also been a volunteer in the National Organization of Research Development Professionals, NORDP for short. She's done this for over 6 years and served as a member of the multiple committees, co-chaired the Professional Development Committee, and more recently, the lead co-chair of the Conference Planning Committee, which is the group of volunteers that leads the charge in planning, organizing, and executing the organization's annual 2023 National Conference this past spring in Crystal City, Virginia. Rebecca also serves as member of the board of the directors and is chair of the Executive Conference Committee. Now that you know a little bit more about our panelists today, let's get started by learning how Judith and Becca are using InfoReady.
Implemented InfoReady in about 2020, end of 2019. Prior to that, we've always had a scientific advisory committee pilot program where grant applications are submitted by our faculty. Prior to InfoReady, everything came into my email box, and I had to find everything and not lose something, which is always a concern. With InfoReady, we are able to track everything in a nice, complete package and allow staff to upload documents on behalf of a faculty. Like an administrative assistant can work with 5 different faculty and be the point person in that department submitting their grant. We can also figure out who submitted a draft or put in a draft and never actually submitted the application. And we use InfoReady for pilot funding. So on a fiscal year basis, the pilot funding is coming from our Roswell Park Alliance Foundation, $1.5 to $2 million that we distribute. We have had a small group of 20 applications all the way up to 50, depending on the time of year and between the last few years. Each application is assigned reviewers. We have a meeting. We review the applications in person or on Teams, depending on the COVID situation. And we'll award the grants through InfoReady, which again just minimizes the amount of email that is individually going out from my inbox, and it's all centralized. And we're moving towards using InfoReady to collect progress reports. We haven't done that yet. I know that Rebecca has done that.
And for those of you who don't know what progress reports are, within InfoReady, there is a feature that you can turn on per competition to collect follow-up forms and reports. So someone submits a proposal or their application, it goes through the review process, you award it. And then if you want to get information on outcomes or ROI or whatever it might be, you are able to assign a progress report or multiple progress reports to the people who were awarded, and then they'll fill them out at whatever interval you've made the deadline, and then they can fill those out. When we spoke before, Rebecca had lots of things to say about progress reports. So, Rebecca, tell us more about your use of InfoReady at UVA.
Yeah, so as Carlos mentioned, I was previously in the Vice President for Research office, where we had a person on our team who ran limited submission competitions for the whole university. So I was introduced to InfoReady then in that office, and really saw the value that it brought to selecting an internal candidate for the limited submission opportunity process. So then I started in the Cancer Center, and we were very similar to the process that Judith defined, very manual. So collecting, putting out an RFA, and then collecting everything through email, keeping spreadsheets of reviews and, applications and that kind of thing. And then, having everything, award letters, just emailed, that kind of thing. But I will say, during that time, our Cancer Center was only running, I would say, 2 to 5 pilot project funding opportunities per year. So not a heavy load, which is, not terrible, but not great to manage manually. But when I started and we gained the comprehensive status, we also acquired some pretty significant funding from our state towards the Cancer Center, as well as some other funding. But currently, so we jumped from the 2 to 5 opportunities a year to over 25 internal. So it was a big, and that was when I started last year. So I knew about InfoReady and the value add, and I asked our AD for research administration, can we please get InfoReady? Because I knew the capabilities. So we started with InfoReady last summer. And I also worked very closely with multiple people in the Cancer Center to try to start, not just while implementing InfoReady, also developing some processes about how we want to run our InfoReady competitions, who to include, how to involve, we call them sponsors. So it'd be the program leaders or leadership in UVA, or in our Cancer Center, who is involved with a certain opportunity. And so we jumped up to a similar funding amount that Judith mentioned, I think 1.5 to 2 million a year in internal funding. And so from there, I mainly started developing the processes for pilot funding and seed funding. We've also implemented, as Carlos mentioned, progress reports, which I'm happy to talk a little bit more about later. And then we also utilize InfoReady for trainee opportunities. So that would be travel grants or fellowships for our trainees and within the Cancer Center. I also have developed our Cancer Center membership application. So as we mentioned in the Cancer Center's faculty / PI would need to apply to the Cancer Center. And so I've developed a application process within that. And then we've also recently, and George has spearheaded this entire function of InfoReady to run our community grants. So through our COE, or Community Outreach Engagement Core. So he's worked very closely with the director of COE to put together community grants. And with this, we have applicants that are applying from outside. These are community members. And then also reviewers who have been outside of the Cancer Center and UVA. And so that's also been a great utilization of InfoReady as well.
Right. Thanks so much. So you are simultaneously setting up processes for the research apparatus at the Cancer Center and probably multiple pieces of software, getting them up and running all at the same time. So everything is on the fly, trying to coordinate all of it together.
Yep. Yeah. I think it really came together nicely. I think, in just echoing what Judith said, like just being able to house all these documents in InfoReady really kind of helped setting up the process, easier, because InfoReady has, processes within it. So it was just making sure the right documents got to the right people, and how we, set up our little help emails, pulling information from the InfoReady support page and support people, that kind of thing, and just being able to help kind of transition our faculty into using InfoReady, and also our leadership and administration as well.
No, totally right. Well, because there's multiple stakeholders, right? And this is actually a question I have for both of you. Go to Judith right now. How is the communication related to the opportunities you have in InfoReady to all of the different stakeholders? Like, how do you promote opportunities? How do you let reviewers know, hey, there might be something coming? How are you telling leadership, hey, this is what we're doing right now?
So
These are great successes we're having.
We publish a monthly newsletter of funding opportunities, and apparently people across our Cancer Center know that if they get an email from me, from my email, it's going to have something good for them, hopefully. So we have newsletters, and in that newsletter, we also point people to InfoReady, where we do the pilot projects, also the limited submissions, and our SPORE career enhancement program and developmental research program. It's all pilot funding that's going out. So when we send out the newsletters to our faculty, I will sometimes point out, this is what's available to you. It's also connected through our internal or intranet site. And as many times, and any new faculty that we meet that comes in for a one-on-one welcome to Roswell Park, we send them information about all the different shared resources, and include information about, make sure that you continue to look at InfoReady, as this is where we're going to put everything that you can apply for. So that's how we're publicizing the information.
I'm glad. Sorry, I'm sure you're glad that you have these, these onboarding, these orientation sessions with faculty members so that they know exactly what they need to do. It's probably a different process for established faculty members when you implemented InfoReady, for example. Now you got to go over here.
Right. But we also need to just get all this information about them, regardless of their early stage or established, to understand who they are, what type of research that they're planning on doing, so that we can help them find money to help support their research.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have a follow-up question on that in a second, but I want to go to Becca.
So yes, we also have a funding opportunity newsletter that we send out weekly. And I would say, well, both George and I work closely with Jill Slack Davis, who is our research development director in the Cancer Center. And she focuses on external opportunities and we focus on the internal opportunities. And then we get them all into this weekly newsletter that that goes out every Tuesday. So early in the week, but not too late. We have started, with internal opportunities, we will run those 2 weeks in a row just because we have heard from faculty that they've missed the email or they never saw the opportunity. And then we also started a opt-in listserv, and faculty members who apply for membership are asked in the membership application, would you like to be added? And then we also have just included that kind of at the end of our funding newsletter, how to opt into it. And with this internal, we call it, I guess, our internal funding listserv. These are just announcements that are sent out when George or when I ran it before, when we launch the opportunity in InfoReady. And many times we use the announcement template that InfoReady provides. And then we forward that to this listserv. And I think that's been helpful in getting the word out. And I think we've also implemented standardized deadlines. So we've picked 3 deadlines every 4 months that do not overlap with an NIH cycle. So we have April, August, and December. And we picked the first Wednesday of the month, and they're due at noon. And so we've also tried to kind of streamline things in that sense so that people will know that these opportunities are coming up at that time, that deadline each year. So we've talked to the program leaders. We also have working group, we call them translational research teams. Though we also provide funding for those groups, and they've indicated the deadline they would like. And then we've set up a whole calendar around that. So we'll release the RFA 2 months before. Reviewers have a month. And so, I think in total it's, I want to say 3 or 4 months to run an entire competition. So we've kind of tried to, I guess, standardize how we run, because we have 25 plus a year. So to separate them between all these deadlines, and our hope is that over the years, people will just expect these opportunities to be popping up at these dates. And so they'll, start their, brainstorming, finding their collaborators, that kind of thing, in advance. So that's our hope, at least.
We have standard deadlines, January 15th and September 15th. And so I just know that when people ask, what's the deadline?
It's going to be one of those 2.
Yeah. Good.
Everyone knows January 15th, September 15th.
Yeah.
It's good to be consistent. That's for sure.
Yes. We try.
So Becca, you kind of took us over the timeline for one of these funding opportunities. And you mentioned the review process in there. So I think was it 25 different funding opportunities?
Yes.
Do you have a standing review committee or a reviewer pool, or how are you, I guess, sourcing your reviewers?
So what we've done is we've identified the internal funding opportunities that are Cancer Center wide. And a lot of time, many of those, we usually ask for a little bit of a longer, almost like an R01 style application for those. And they're usually larger, collaborative opportunities. Not all of them, but most of them that we say are Cancer Center wide, or it's a call asking for general research, not a specific area. And with those, we actually just in the past few months have set up an internal review committee that we've worked with a different AD, our AD of basic sciences, and he really spearheaded helping to identify reviewers, talking to them, asking them to commit for, I think we asked them for 2 to 3 years. And then we also kind of set up a process so that people roll off and then are replaced, so we don't wear out our reviewers too much. Now with the other opportunities, so we have a lot of opportunities, one for each of our programs, so our research programs, and then also our working groups, so the translational research teams. So with those alone, that's 11. And we work closely with the sponsors, which would be the leaders of those groups, to identify reviewers. And sometimes they prefer to serve as a reviewer, and we are okay with that as long as they themselves did not submit an application and they would not be reviewing their own. And those are usually, we don't have a lot of applications. At the most, we'll have 6 for those competitions. So it's usually those leaders will identify maybe a member of that group to serve as a reviewer who did not submit an application. We also try to tap people who were previously funded by the Cancer Center to serve as reviewers as well.
Thanks so much. And Judith, can you tell us a little bit more about how you get reviewers?
We have a similar process. We have we call a standing study section of up to 15 individuals, faculty who have served on NIH or DoD review panels in the past. And when we implemented InfoReady, we provided the guidelines. This is how InfoReady is going to work, and this is how we're doing this. And so now that we're 3 years in, the review panel is much more comfortable using InfoReady to just update all their comments and scores. We do also have program specific pilot funding, and when we are navigating those RFAs, the program leaders are the ones who will tell me who's reviewing which application. So it's a different set of reviewers, but generally similar individuals who might be ad hoc reviewers for the regular pilot project funding. I will say one of the other things that we're using InfoReady for is through our Roswell Park Alliance Foundation. We give out money through quality of life grants, which is not something that it's like, that's a different department, but they're also using InfoReady. And that group of individuals are not necessarily faculty who are not doing grants on a regular basis, and therefore the reviewers are also not necessarily faculty. For that set of applications, the administrator will download the applications and email. Like, we're trying to move step by step to increase use of InfoReady, but for some of our community partners, it's just easier to but at least it's in a standardized format that they're getting an application that looks the same as the other applications rather than random PDFs that are just not cohesive.
Rebecca, Becca, I see you nodding over here with the community partners.
Yeah, I actually have been talking to George about that, because as I mentioned, he's been really in the thick of running that competition. And he has mentioned there's been, a few hiccups, and as Judith said, trying to get people who aren't grant writers or reviewers by the nature of their position or career path. Just, giving them the information to, put the grants together and then the reviewers to participate. I think we did have just a little bit of learning curve for us in using InfoReady to open it up to outside members. But I think that everything went smoothly with that. And so, yes, I was just, agreeing and connecting with Judith on on how the, working with people who just aren't familiar with grants. It's just not in their wheelhouse. But I guess now it is, because they've, been through our whole process.
You probably have to maybe change the way you ask the review questions are posed and how the criteria is structured in order to be able to get that constructive feedback you want from them.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally understandable there. Judith, on a few occasions, Becca has mentioned leveraging the resources of the rest of the institution, of the rest of UVA. Now, Roswell Park, its own and comprehensive cancer center. How do you work with maybe other higher ed institutions in your area, which is Buffalo?
University of Buffalo is down the street, but Roswell Park is a standalone cancer center, so we have collaborations and absolutely work and do sub-awards with UB, University of Rochester, other local academic centers. But the InfoReady that we're using right now is really for Roswell Park faculty. I will say that our ovarian cancer spore is a collaboration between Roswell Park and University of Chicago Conference of Cancer Center. So when the career enhancement programs or developmental research programs are run through Roswell Park's InfoReady, it's interesting to see that the U Chicago InfoReady, like the U Chicago Cancer Center members have their own InfoReady awareness, so they have to actually get a separate account on the Roswell Park InfoReady to access and to apply. But so far, that's the only non-Roswell entity that we're navigating to use the system.
Right. It
helps.
Curious, right? You have options for so many more collaboration.
Yes.
Great. So we've spoken about pilot grants a ton, and I wanted to ask you how you break up those pilot funds, right? Do you have pilot funds for early career faculty? Do you have things of that nature?
So we have an open competition. We have it by program, by CCSG research program. We have an NIH near miss project, RFA, we have a team science RFA, specific research microbiome as an example, do a specific RFA on that. So leave it.
Yeah, we're very similar, and I would say we're fluid. So we're kind of constantly brainstorming, how can we better support or better, fund different kinds of projects and that kind of thing in the Cancer Center. So yes, I would say our standard one's very similar. We have a large Cancer Center wide, we call it collaborative single component opportunity, which is actually due next week. And last year we got 18 applications. So these are 18 groups that put together collaborative projects to get seed funding for. And then we also have all of our research programs, working groups. And then we also do have an ACSIRG. So that's funding that our Cancer Center has gotten, and then we run a competition to distribute those funds. And that is usually early career faculty. And then we've also this year done these community grants and the trainee support, which involves travel grants. And we have a few that we kind of leave open all year, and that one is open all year until funding runs out. In terms of how, I'm not sure if this completely answers your question, Carlos, but we've allocated a certain amount to each. So the research programs, we have 4 of them, and we allocate 150,000. And we recommend that they use most of that money towards pilot funding or a collaborative funding or that kind of thing. Or some kind of infrastructure type investment that would help the entire program. And then with the translational research teams, they have 100,000 a year, fiscal year. So, and most of them utilize that funding as pilot projects or seed grants. And trying to think, we've also had a few one-offs, like we have a spatial biology course, so we put funding, a solicitation out for projects that would utilize that core, and this would offset some of the costs of a specific project. So they submitted projects that they wanted to use this core for, and then asked for a specific amount of funding that would offset the core fees. And then we've also done pilots for partners in discovery. So anyone on this call who also works, utilizes Orion network and that kind of thing. So also projects that utilize those resources. So we have some one-offs, and let's see, I'm trying to think. I think I'll stop there.
Well, we have all there's lots going on, right? And you get a lot of data, right? And you have to report this out. So I'm bringing this back around to progress reports as well. So let's talk progress reports. How what are you looking for when you're collecting progress reports?
So I'll go on this one because I know, Judith, you said you're just starting on these. So we've, in the past, I'll do was it BI, before InfoReady. We have a Word template that we'd send out. We keep an Excel sheet of all the opportunities that have been funded, and we try to collect annual progress reports for 5 years post-funding. George and I, we've been brainstorming about doing a little project of going back and looking at some of the 4 and 5 year progress reports to see if there's really that much progress. In terms of, is that project really just completed after 3 years? Do we need to collect up to 5 years? But we currently are. We also, with starting using InfoReady, we've decided to implement 6-month milestone reports. And what we've done with this is, and this is in the official award letter, we ask for a milestone report. It's very simple. We just ask a question using the progress reports in InfoReady. What progress has been made in 6 months? Have you, acquired any pubs or grants? From this project. So it's just these few questions. We don't expect them to have any pubs or grants at 6 months, but you never know. So we just mainly want to see the progress that's been made. And then we'll pull the reports from InfoReady, very nice little PDF package, and send them to the sponsor or program leaders, or, the person who's overseeing that competition. And ask, do you approve these projects to receive all their funding? So when we initially award a grant, a pilot project, say it's 100,000, upfront we'll only give 50,000, and they must complete this milestone report to get the second distribution of funds. And then we'll ask a more in-depth, long annual progress report. So that's the way we've been running it since implementing InfoReady. So George and I built a 6-month milestone report and a annual milestone report in InfoReady, and that's in our master template. So every new competition we start, it has it in there already. And I'm waiting for InfoReady to do a duplicate function with the annual one.
We were talking about that before.
Yes. Yeah. So, but I know I've talked to both George and I have talked to your customer support, and they said they're working on it. Just being able to duplicate progress reports, because we're usually just asking the same questions It's the same exact form annually. But they're long and involved. And I was excited to work with the InfoReady support team, and they taught me how to use the logic. So if people don't, have pubs yet, or, trainees aren't involved yet, if they mark that question no, it just hops to the next one. If they mark yes, it opens up multiple, I guess, fields for them to fill out. So it's been really helpful in that sense.
Well,
Do you ask people to upload a scientific part, like a separate PDF of science?
We do have that option, because we did in the past, we used to ask for a slide of kind of a summary slide of the work, and where it's progress over the years. So we do have an upload function, and we just say upload any scientific, any scientific process, or if you want to do a slide or that kind of thing. So we have put that into the progress report.
Thank you.
Is that an idea that you're now going to implement with progress reports, or were you already going to do that?
What are you talking? So we collect progress reports snail mail, by email, sending reminders and requests, but now it's just up to me to implement what Rebecca has done, putting it through the system and really running through all the different variations and making sure it will work. And then we've done a return on investment report every year, looking back 5 years, 10 years to see who received a grant, how many publications were received or published. It now, using InfoReady, the hope is that it will be easier to do all the calculations and it will be cleaner.
Yeah. I will say it has been. I was going to say it has been, especially when my AD for research administration, she'll ask, how many applications did we get for this, and how many did we fund? And yes, what's going on with those? I can just in a couple minutes pull the reports, or I can just look in InfoReady and give her the numbers if that's what she needs. And that's been really, really helpful. And then I think I'm going to suspect a few people on this call use eval, so we'll put it into eval. So there is that, I guess, more manual transition. So for those of you that don't know, eval is a different platform that's specifically for cancer centers, and just basically housing all your data. So your membership, all the pubs, all the grants. And we're actually hoping to maybe put all our trainees in there as well. So it's just a database strictly for that data. But it's been helpful. InfoReady being able to pull reports or just even look on the site, it's been really helpful to do that.
We should see if we could do some sort of outbound data feed from InfoReady.
Yeah,
like talk to your IT team, maybe
that
do
would be really
data
great.
feed to automatically load it into eval.
Yeah, because the way eval works is they have templates of basically the fields that are within the program, and if you just fill out an Excel file and it has to match like those terms that they use, it'll upload everything into it. Or theoretically, I should say.
It would be very nice if it worked.
Yeah.
But we do other kinds of data integrations with other tools. Worth the conversation, I would say.
Yes.
Excuse me. Yeah, Judith, one other thing about progress reports, since you're just going to start getting into it, you can set deadlines and reminders months or years in advance. So, collecting those reports can be a pain sometimes, and you can have the system work for you to get that in a more timely manner.
Great. So just spend a little bit of time now and then just set it up, and it will work, hopefully.
I was also going to add a quick other utilization I would say we use InfoReady for. I set up this past year historical competition progress reports. So these are competitions that were manually run BI before InfoReady, and we basically just went back to the year before our renewal. And so I've transitioned all of those, I guess, I'm going to say competitions or applications into InfoReady, and then ask all of the investigators to fill out the InfoReady progress report instead of our Word doc that we have. So that actually went pretty smoothly. I think we had about 80 to 90% completion, which I think is pretty good.
That's great.
So we're approaching, we've got 6 minutes left. And I've got one last question for you. I had to, maybe I can sneak a second one in. We brought up the topic of using InfoReady for membership. Can you share a little bit more about that in 30 to 60 seconds?
I was going to ask Judith, does Roswell use it for membership?
Not yet.
Okay. I got the idea from when I attended the CCSG, not the CCAAF meeting last year. So this is, or this past spring, it seems like it's been a year ago. This is the Cancer Center Administrators Forum. There was a panel I went to and they were talking about, hosting membership application online. So I looked at a few cancer centers to see what they did, and a few utilized InfoReady. The problem is you can't get into their application if you're not at that university or institution.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yes.
Security.
Yes, exactly. So I talked to our AD for research admin and I was like, I really want to do this. I think it would be really helpful. And it's been actually very great. We've been able to really collect very specific information about new members, and then ask for uploads of cover letters and BioSketch or CV. And then easily, again, InfoReady puts it all into a nice little PDF and send it to the appropriate leadership for review. And I'm also able to utilize InfoReady when people apply. I can, send a notification like your membership application has been accepted. And I usually try to give them a little bit of timeline, because we always review them the first week of the month. And so I have that in our little notification template, and just so people know when to expect it. So it's been really helpful in organizing our membership. And again, we just put in our RPPR and I had to pull together all of the members. Oh, and we had our EAB, External Advisory Board meeting. So using InfoReady really helped me, make sure all of our, especially new members, are accounted for.
Would you be willing to share a template with Judith or anyone on the phone? Yeah,
I would be happy to share a template if anyone is interested.
Great.
Thanks. All right, so this is last question because we have 3 minutes left. Just a Judith, parting advice on how to get the most out of InfoReady for someone in a cancer center.
I would say just try everything. I keep saying what I would love to do, and I have done, is set up a dummy, your own internal application or competition to test out everything that you can. And then I would go back to that test application competition. I keep calling it the wrong thing, to add the progress reports or add all the different elements that we can so that you test it out in something other than the live version. So it's taken a while, but we're getting there.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Becca, parting.
Yes, I totally agree. I think George and I, we both use our Gmails, because we'll pretend we'll pretend to be an applicant, pretend to be a reviewer, pretend to be awarded, pretend to, just to make sure everything's working the way we think it's working. I guess for me, my parting words on on using InfoReady is there's, as Carlos put up it earlier on, there's so many applications you can use InfoReady for. And I'm worried Sarah will be upset with me, but don't hesitate to reach out to their customer support. They are the best. As Judith mentioned, we've also, had a lot of questions, run into just things, that weren't intuitive to us. And InfoReady, it might be intuitive to other people, but it just wasn't immediately for us. And you all definitely have the best customer support, and I've gotten so much help and insight from them. So that's been, don't be afraid to ask the dumb questions, because there are no dumb questions.
They really do great work on this team. And what's going to happen, my next one-on-one with Sarah is now she's going to complain to me about your effusive praise resulting in more work for her. So,
that's what I was like, Sarah, don't get mad at me. But they are just, they're truly dedicated to helping their customers. And we, as the customer client, just really, really appreciate the knowledge and, troubleshooting they will put in to help find a solution to any question or problem.
Yeah, no, they definitely do. And as a company, we do put it in lots of effort to try to make sure you're able to do what you need to do with the platform. So there's a proof right there that it's happening. So
yeah,
we're at time. Thank you so much, everyone who attended the webinar today. We also recorded it. So if you wanted to check it out later or share it with your colleagues, we'll send it out to everyone who registered for the webinar, and you'll be able to share it with people you know. I'd like to thank both of our panelists, Judith Epstein from Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center and Rebecca Latimer from University of Virginia Comprehensive Cancer Center. Very much appreciate all of the knowledge and wisdom you shared about using InfoReady for your institutions. And thank you everyone who joined us today.